Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. Good afternoon, all. On behalf of Velolar College of Engineering Technology, I feel pleasure to welcome our today's session resource person, Dr. A. Sudha, and I want to introduce her to you. She is currently working as an assistant professor in the Department of Computer Science and Engineering, SRM University. She received the ME and PhD degree from Anna University, Chennai. During her research, she was a visiting research fellow to the University of California, DeVos campus for a period of 9 months. She worked as a software engineer, IT analyst in Tata Consultancy Services Limited for a period of 6 years and has awarded as a star performer during her confirmation. Her research area includes wireless networks, IoT, network security, 5G technologies like SDN, LTE, and vehicular networks, UAV. She published many research papers in many international journals, such as IEEE Transactions of Industrial Informatics, IEEE Internet of Things, Elsevier, and Springer. She is also acting as a reviewer in few of the reputed journals and international conferences, and she received awarded reviewer recognition.
Okay, I'm over here to present inductive learning. Good afternoon, one and all. I'm Sudha and I'm over here to present inductive learning and reinforcement learning. Before going into the topic, I guess you would have had few topics relevant to machine learning in your artificial intelligence course. So you know that machine learning itself is a huge or a vast field of research and study where it uses many ideations and innovations and it can be related to any relevant domains, and one such relevant domain is our artificial intelligence. So when we say machine learning, it's completely a field of learning and it's acquiring knowledge, skills through experience, rather we can say through historical data. So when we say machine learning, it's making the computer to learn with the help of, and it will develop an algorithm based on the data and output that's been given. So it is learning based on the data. Suppose, for example, let us take the road and we have n number of vehicles. We have a vehicle A, and if that vehicle can sensor a pothole in front, that sensor data immediately is fed to the network and it is being stored up. So the other machines, whoever is using that data, will learn that there is a certain pothole in that particular road, and accordingly the machines, the automated cars would move to the other lane. And similarly, this vehicle, which also learned, can use it for further processing of the information. So it's always learned based on the data, and that data can be a sensor data or from a database. So machine learning, which recognizes any complex patterns and it makes intelligent decisions. So in the road, the other vehicles makes an intelligent decisions of moving to the other lane. So when we say machine learning, though it's trending now, but it's been from the decade 1950 in the term of artificial intelligence, where we can say artificial intelligence is the human behavior. So it mimics the human behavior. And later at 1980s, a subset of artificial intelligence called machine learning started evolving, where we say it's an ability to learn without being explicitly programmed to do so. So when we say traditional programming, we give data and a program as an input and we get output. In case of machine learning, what we do, we give data and output. The machine learning gives us the program, how to solve for any instances that occurs in the future in cases. So and the latest one, the subset of ML is deep learning, which started evolving from 2010. So this is completely with your multi-layer neural networks computations. And when we say machine learning, there are n number of types involved with machine learning. You would have had session previously with supervised learning and unsupervised learning. So when we say field of study, it's like supervised learning, unsupervised learning, and reinforcement learning. These three comes under the field of study. And when we take hybrid learning problems, it's you use the mixture of supervised and unsupervised, where you say it as a semi-supervised, self-supervised, and multi-instance learning algorithm. Other than that, you have statistical inference. When we say inference, it's you're getting some outcome. So it's inductive inference, deductive inference, and transductive inference. So we have three types of learning algorithms, which we say it as inductive reasoning or inductive inference or inductive learning algorithm. Similarly, you have deductive and transductive. Other than that, you have multitask learning, active learning, online, transfer, and ensemble learning. So in the previous sessions, you would have had information about supervised and unsupervised. So when we say supervised learning, it's labeled data. For example, you take a plate and plate has sweets, karam, or any kind of sweets, karam, all different mixtures is being there in that plates. So you classify the sweets. Since it's labeled, you classify it accordingly and you categorize it and you say these all are the sweets. And when the same plate, when it is used with unsupervised learning, we say no labeled data. In such cases, how we'll classify, we'll make clusters. So based on similar properties. For example, the triangle shaped ones are called sweets is clustered, and the rhombus shaped, parallelogram shaped one, the Kaju Katli sweets are clustered. So we can, based on its similar properties, we cluster them because the data are not labeled. So unsupervised learning. And the next we have is our reinforcement learning. As the name says, reinforcement learning, it's similar to your human learning. Like, for example, you take a baby starts learning, it's walking. So how does the baby starts learning its walking? It does some action. So it performs an action based on the policy that it will start standing up. So it moves from one state to another state. And for each state, it gets a reward. Sometimes it will fall off. Sometimes it will get a smile from its mom. Sometimes mom may not smile. So this all is like online learning. Like the baby learns on its own based on the reward that it achieves. Sometimes it will get the 100% reward. Sometimes due to some mistakes, the reward would be reduced. So when I say reinforcement learning involves state, action, and reward. So reward based on the action that is performed at each state, a reward is being given, and the maximized reward will be that is the algorithm that is learned with the given environment. So then the baby will act as an agent, and that baby agent on its own, it will see the environment, it will just stand up and it will take a small step, it may fall. If it falls, it's a penalty. And if it takes another step, so reinforcement learning can be compared with our baby who learns walking on its own. So we say it's close to human learning. Algorithm learns the policy of how to act in a given environment, every action. So when I say baby, for every step, even for standing up, for every action, there is some impact in the environment, and the environment provides reward, which helps them to guide the learning algorithm. That's how the algorithm is being produced. Other than these three, we said that we have semi-supervised, self-supervised, and multi-instance. When we say semi-supervised, it is like it has both labeled and unlabeled, like both the data are there. So we can say that semi-supervised is to make use of all the data available and not just the labeled. So the training data contain very few labeled examples and a large number of unlabeled. So it can be a mixture of both labeled and unlabeled. When we say self-supervised, it's an unsupervised learning algorithm. We said unsupervised learning is an unlabeled data, right? Similarly, self-supervised is an unsupervised learning algorithm where you don't have labeled data, all the data are unlabeled, but every now and then you should make sure that you are doing something new to produce a research out of it. And similarly, multi-instance is a supervised learning algorithm where all your examples are unlabeled, but group of samples may be labeled. So you have multiple instances of supervised learning algorithm where individual examples are unlabeled and group of samples are labeled. Then we have our statistical inference where we have inductive learning, deductive and transductive. When I say inference, it's like you are reaching a decision, you are determining an outcome. We know that in machine learning, all is like you make a prediction using some kind of models, and you end up with fitting a model based on the prediction. So we can say that inductive reference or inductive reasoning or an inductive learning is a method where reasonings are viewed. So with some evidence, maybe not complete assurance, with some evidence, you come up with a conclusion. So involves using evidence to determine the outcome. It's written in the book that says, lacking any information, our assumption is that best hypothesis regarding unseen instance, because we cannot say that all the instances would be seen because we take only some instances, is the hypothesis that best fits the observed training data. This is the fundamental assumption of inductive learning. So I can say that from specific, I generalize. So it's like specific to general, whereas deductive is just reserved. We use general rules to determine specific outcomes, and transductive learning is from specific to specific. So we can categorize induction as specific to general, detection as from general to specific, transduction as specific to specific. And when I say inductive and deductive, it's like inductive is certain, whereas deductive is certain, whereas inductive is a probable conclusion, because based on the evidence we produce the result. So induction is distinct from deductive, while the conclusion of deductive arguments are certain, wherein inductive arguments are probable because it's based upon the evidence. We have three types: induction, deduction, and we can say it as general model from specific, model to make predictions, that is specific to general, and specific to specific. Is my speed okay, or am I slow, or how do you feel, ma'am? Any suggestion? Ma'am, is the way okay? Okay. Okay, we saw inductive, deductive, and transductive. We have other learning techniques such as multitask, active, online, transfer, and ensemble. When I say multitask, so you have abundance of data for one task, and that can be shared with other tasks. So it's a supervised learning that involves fitting model on one data set that address multiple related problems. So we can say that you have abundance input data that are labeled for one task, and that data can be shared for another task with much less labeled data. Then we have active learning. As the name says, it produces greater accuracy with fewer learning samples. So the learner adaptively or interactively collect training examples, typically querying the Oracle to request labels for new points. Then we have online learning. When I say online learning, it's useful when data may be changing rapidly over time. It's also useful for applications that involve large collections of data, even if there are changes that are gradual. Like we can say that you have large data available and you are updating the model directly before the prediction is required. That is before the last observation was made. Then we have transfer learning. So here, as the name says, transfer, where a model is first trained on one task, and then all or some of the model is used as a starting point for the related task, where we can say that learner must perform two or more different tasks, but we assume that there are certain variations and there are certain relevant of tasks between 1 and 2, such kind of transfers. And ensemble learning, when I say ensemble learning, It's a we all would have heard the word ensemble classifier, where it's an approach for predicting. It's like the ensemble classifier is usually used with the machine learning algorithm for classification, for predicting, for all such cases. This model is being used. So we can say that where two or more modes are fit on the same data, and prediction from each model are combined. So these all are the types of machine learning, and in that we would be going with reinforcement and inductive learning. So when we start with reinforcement learning, reinforcement learning is not a neural network. Also, it's not an alternative to neural network. So we can say it's like it is in between. It's not or alternative. We can say it's an orthogonal approach for machine learning. And it's as we said an example before. Similarly, I can say bicycle. So when we take bicycle, we have the road, which acts as the environment, and finally, whoever is learning the bicycle, the agent should learn how to perform cycling. So what are the steps he will do? He will take actions of pedaling, like one step, another state. So each steps are taken as state, and action is what he performs. Sometimes he will perform forward, like he will step the pedal in the forward direction. Sometimes he will step in the reverse direction, and sometimes he will apply brake, and sometimes he will not apply. Like the person learns on his own based on the rewards that he achieves. If there is no case, and if he applies two brakes, like both the side brakes, and he may fall, so that time it's a penalty. So he has learned. So next time he will not apply, so he will take rewards. So however he achieves the maximum reward in learning the bicycle is a reinforcement learning. So I say that reinforcement learning emphasizes learning feedback that evaluates the learner's performance without providing standards of correctness. So it's like based on the behavior, based on the reward that he gets, the bicycle learner finally learns bicycling. So we can say that he is learning cycle without anybody's help, where he has to pedal. So the action that he has to perform is pedaling, and the environment that is taken as road. So here he will be given good rewards when he moves forward, and he will be given penalty when he pedals in the reverse side, that is when he steps back. So based on all the trial and error, and also sometimes need of applying brake is needed, and sometimes it is not needed. So with all this, with all the penalty and reward, finally without anybody's help, the bicycle is being learned. So such a way we can say it's a reinforcement learning. So as we explained, it's like the reinforcement is an occurrence of an event in proper relation to a response. So I say I make one action. So with respect to the response of that action, I'll increase the probability of the same occurrence again and again to attain the maximum reward. So finally, I should get maximum reward. So reinforcement learning is how to act in order to maximize a numerical reward. It is how you get a maximum reward. It is faced by an agent, that behavior through trial and error. So it's always a trial and error interactions with the dynamic environment. The reinforcement learning is performed. So there would be n number of steps. For example, you are in the environment and you are in a state 9. Suppose take state 9. You have two options, either apply brake or don't apply brake. So if the learner does action A, which is applying brake, since some car is crossing or something and you have to stop, so you are applying brake, you are rewarded with 100. So you are given the maximum reward. And there is another state, 632. Similarly, you have asked to do two actions, B or T. Either you have to pedal forward or backward. So if you have done a wrong action B, you will be given a penalty, that is discounted reward. Say 50 instead of 100, you receive only 50. Similarly, for each steps, you will have certain rewards, and that is for each state you perform an action, and based on the action you are rewarded. So we can say the features of reinforcement learning is you achieve the final goal, but without specifying how the task is to be achieved. So you'll not specify how to achieve, but you will achieve it. So we can say it's a set of problems rather than set of techniques. And we say penalty as punishment. So when we saw here that you are in state 32, I made a mistake, so I was given a penalty of 50. So I was only rewarded 50. So here I was given a punishment, that is penalty 50. So I was able to get only a reward of 50 instead of 100. So RL is training by rewards and punishments. So we can say punishments or a discounted reward or a penalty. Whichever words, it all gives the same meaning in reinforcement. So training tool for the computer learning. With respect to the learner's agent's point of view, we say that it is a trial and error with the environment. And finally, how much reward I'll get. So how much reward I should get for this. So the components involved with our reinforcement learning algorithm, that's the agent. For a policy is nothing but you have to behave for an action. So policy is how you are going to behave in that particular, for example, in cycling, how you are going to behave. So you have to cycle. So the action is being performed, pedaling. So action is performed on the road, which is an environment. So you are moving to the next state. So based on the action, you would be rewarded, and this would continue. For example, I am in state 0, I move to state 1, and I perform action, and for that action, I would be rewarded. Similarly, so I move from one state to another state with actions, and I would be rewarded for it. So here I say agents as intelligent programs. When we took the example as baby learned on its own to walk. So it's like an online learning, like it's an intelligent. And the environment is the external condition that it took to learn, and the policy is how it behaves at the given time. So we are mapping from states to actions and lookup tables for the simple functions. So we saw the components and the elements of reinforcement learning includes reward function, value function, model of the environment. When I say reward function, based on the reward, your policy is altered to achieve a goal. As we said, a policy is nothing but a way of behaving at a given time. So it's like you are mapping the state to action to be taken when you are in that state. So that is altered to achieve the goal. So finally, you should define the goal to achieve a reward. When I say value, it's like the positive reward as well as the negative reward, the discounted reward. So reward function indicates what is good in an immediate sense, while a value function specifies what is good in the long run. So value of a state is the total amount of reward an agent can expect to accumulate over the future starting from that state. So model of the environment is nothing but the environment that is being taken, which predicts the behavior, and it is used for planning to know the current state and action. So state and action that predicts the next state and next reward. So you could see that you have agent performs an action in the environment. So you are moving to the next state with a reward. So you have state and action is being performed. So you can say agent observes state at step 0 and produces an action and gets a resulting reward, and then moving to the next state. So we say that agent observes an input state, and the action is being determined by the policy. So we say policy is nothing but the learning agent's way of behaving, and action is being performed. The agent receives a reward, which we say it's a reward or discounted reward. Discounted reward in sense with respect to penalty. Information about the reward given for the state action pair is recorded. We have evaluative feedback in RL. When we say evaluative feedback, we know that there would be some best action or a worst action. So how good the action is, how you are rewarded. That's how you optimize the function. That's your evaluative. Like based on the feedback, you evaluate whether it is a good or a bad reward. Like whether it's a good action or a bad action based on the reward. You have associative and non-associative tasks in reinforcement learning. When we say associative, okay, take a grocery shop. We go, we buy a milk. We'll check for the expiry date because expiry date is associated with milk. It is situation dependent because we are mapping from situation to the action that are best in that situation. Because I may have 2 packs of milk in that shop, wherein one will have expiry date of today and the another one will have the expiry date of tomorrow. So I would take the best milk among the two. So it's associative because you take the best action with that situation. It's when I say non-associative, suppose you have a robo who picks up the grocery items. You have a list and that is given to that robo, and it has milk, bread, and so and so. So it just picks up the products. For some products, for example, for milk, it would have picked without knowingly or unknowingly. Like we can say, it would have picked the tomorrow's expiry date. Maybe for bread, it would have taken the expired one. So it's like it's been not associative. So learner associating different action with different situations because it is situation independent, because I did not look into the robot did not look into the expiry date. So learner either tries to find a single best action when the task is stationary, or tries to track the best action as it changes over time when the task is non-stationary. So we can say associative and non-associative. Next, we have exploration and exploitation. Okay, let us take an example of library and all the books are arranged. Still, if I say greedy approach, it is exploitation. But if it is a non-greedy, I'll explore each shelves and finally I'll take whatever is needed. So I can say that I improve it using, I finally find it using non-greedy action. The same library I can perform with the maximum reward just by exploitation. That is nothing but greedy action. When I say non-greedy action, I explore shelf by shelf and I go and I finally take up what I need. That's a non-greedy action. N-armed bandit problem. So for n-armed bandit problem, I can say that, okay, let us take 10 machines. 10 machines, okay, it's like a lucky draw kind of. So you feed, you have to give 3 numbers as an input randomly to any number of machines. But if there is a luck, you will get some reward, like some prize. So you feed different options to different machines, to the 10 machines. But in some machines, by luck, you would get a maximum reward. So finally, we'll choose the one with maximum reward. So we have to choose from n different options or actions. We'll choose the one with maximum reward. That is n-armed bandit problem. So here you could see that multi-armed, contextual, and full reinforcement problem. For every action, you are given a reward. With respect to contextual bandit, it is for each state, to move to a next state, you have to perform an action, and based on that, you would be rewarded. So you move to a next state and you are rewarded. In respect to full reinforcement, for a state, you perform an action and you move to a next state and then you are rewarded. So the reward is based on action, but with respect to multi-armed, it's just the action to reward, so no states. With respect to contextual, state, action, or state to reward. Here, state, action, and then to state, then only it's rewarded. That's the full reinforcement problem. So continual learning in bandit problems. So we have taken contextual multi-armed bandit model, which is an agent, and you have an environment. So you perform, you take a policy and you perform an action. Based on the action, you are given a reward. That is implicit feedback such as click. So multi-armed bandit problem. Here, the bandit, the context armed gives the context to the agent, and based on the context, an action is being performed. For that action, in the policy, the way of behaving, the action is being which has a good behaving policy, so it's been rewarded, and that particular reward is being set. So concept of bandit problems: pull SOM sequentially to maximize the total expected reward. It is non-associative and evaluative. Action selection policies. In action selection policies, we have epsilon greedy and epsilon soft. So when we say greediest action, that is the action with the highest estimated reward. So here we have two types, greedy and soft. So if I say the greediest action is chosen, that's the probability epsilon. So other than that, the 1 minus epsilon would be my soft. So every once in a while, with a small probability epsilon, an action is selected at random. The action is selected uniformly, independent of the action valued estimate, which we say it as a epsilon greedy. The best action that is selected with the probability other than the epsilon greedy, which is 1 minus epsilon, and the rest of the time a random action is chosen uniformly, is your epsilon soft. So epsilon greedy action selection method. You have, let us take an action that is considered as A star, which is a greedy action at a particular time. So you have a value as a reward for that action. So if you perform an action, the greedy action, the reward would be the maximum reward that you are attained for that action. So max Q of t is the maximum value that's been given for that action. So since we said the probability would be in a random action epsilon, which is a greedy, or 1 minus epsilon, which is the epsilon soft. Action selection policies, softmax. So like the drawback of both is we do random selections, and we assign a weight for each actions and according to their action value estimate, and a random action is selected with regard to the weight. And we have certain worst actions and that shouldn't be chosen. So when we say a good approach, we shouldn't choose the worst action, so because the worst actions would be unfavorable. So when we say epsilon greedy, sometimes we may not get the maximum and we neglect the action values. So it's agent, policy, reward. As we say agent, so it's the agent, as we said, cycling or baby walking, they learn from a policy. So how to behave, the way of behaving for that time. So with respect to that environment, how the actions are taken to move to other states. So policy at step T. So policy, that is the behavior that is taken, mapping from states to action probabilities B. Phi of t S of A, where state and action. So probability for attaining the action A of t when S of t is equal to. So agent changes their policy with experience. The objective is always you should get reward. So when we say penalty or a punishment, we can say that that time the reward would be reduced. So a goal should specify what we want to achieve, not how we want to achieve it. Returns and discounted returns. So returns is nothing but your reward. So rewards in long term. When we say episodes, it's like a sequence of actions, like subsequence of interaction between agent and environment. So you perform a play of game or trips through a maze. It's like sorry. So episodes, subsequence of interaction between agent and environment, the plays of a game and trips through a maze. And when we say discounted return, it's represented using gamma. For example, the value is 0 to 1. We say that, so if my gamma is higher, for example, 1, I have maximum reward. Because, for example, if my reward is 100 and if my discount is 1 into 100, I get the complete reward. But in case if it is 0, I get 0 as my reward. So it's completely discounted. So we can say the punishment or the penalty based on the gamma value, and the gamma value lies from 0 to 1. Suppose if you are given a discount of 0.7, like a penalty of 0.7, in such cases your reward would be 0.7 into 100, just 70. So instead of 100, you get a reduced reward. So when we attained 50 in the previous example, when we saw over there, we had an action B and our reward was 50. In that case, the gamma value would be 0.5. The discounted rate is 0.5. So where I have a discounted rate of being given based on the, so this discounted, the gamma value helps me to determine the future rewards, and it gives more weight to the earlier rewards, because if I get 1, I get, so in case if you have higher rewards at the earlier, your future, it determines the future rewards, because the rewards that you get at the early stage weighs more for the total calculations, right? So here we have state value and action value. So state action estimates how good it is for the agent to be in a given state. So when I say state value function and action value function, we have the value of the state which is expected to return in that state. So based on your reward and the discount rate, the expected return of that state is being mentioned. So it's the reward with respect to your discount rate. Similarly, action value is also same, expected return starting from that state, taking that action. So here we take only the state equal to S, and here we just take the action also. So it is the value of taking an action in a state under policy is the expected return starting from that state, taking that action, and thereafter the equation. We have model-free and model-based learning. When we say model-based learning, there is some model, and based on that model which interacts, for example, let us take the car. The car should have brake and accelerator should work. It should be like all the model. So if I say that these all are the positives and the negatives is like if it doesn't work the brake. So it's been, the model is been. So I know that if I apply brake, I'll not meet with an accident. Similarly. So it's like it's a model based. So model is being given already. So you have a model and you learn from that model instead of interacting with the world. When we say model free learning, we can take this COVID-19 itself as a best example, like how to be safe in this COVID-19 situation. Even nobody knows, like we started learning from the environment. So it's like we are interacting with the world, and with that we started learning, okay, this all gives rewards and these actions gives punishments. So there is no model that's been fed up like so and so cases will result in positive and so will result in negative. So it's we started learning with the world. So it's like a sample reward and transition function by interacting with the world. So we can say it's a model free learning. When it is model based, we learn from the model instead of interacting with the world. Because when I say a car, it's been modeled already, and we know this is all the brakes, and if I do such kind of actions, it will result in punishment, so this kind of actions will give me rewards. So it's a dynamic programming, which is a model based, and model free is called direct, and model based is an indirect methods. Problem solving methods for reinforcement learning, we have 3: dynamic programming, Monte Carlo method, and temporal difference learning. So dynamic programming, so we can say dynamic programming as selfish model. Like it will not learn the complete environment, but it will just have the accurate model, but it will not have the environment. So before understanding the environment completely, it will just adapt. It will adapt, and it will try to learn the policy. So it's like then and there it computes, and it evaluates the policy, and it performs the improvement, but it will not learn the complete environment. It's like selfish. That time it should get some policy point, like it should get a reward for that case. So it's a dynamic programming requires a accurate model, but not with the environment, complete environment. Here the policy is being attained then and there. So computation of improved policy is given the formula reward plus discounted rate of your dynamic programming state. Whereas Monte Carlo, it has some knowledge about the environment. When I say episode, it is like number of experience, like set of states and actions that's been performed can be termed as the experience, and some certain number of experiences are termed as episodes. So only after completing the episode, so it will just learn, and it will understand, like it will have few knowledge about the environment, and after learning that the policies are changed. So it's a step-by-step it is not step-by-step, like after the episode only it updates its policy. Temporal difference, it is a mixture of dynamic programming and Monte Carlo, where from the Monte Carlo, TD takes Monte Carlo and dynamic programming. So it can learn directly from interaction with the environment, and it doesn't, so it updates the policy, but and also it takes some samples. So we can say that there is bootstrapping, which update involves an estimate, and sampling, where it does not involve an expected value. Your TD takes bootstraps from DP and samples from MC. So it's like it takes both the positives, and that's why we say that TD it doesn't need a full model, and it can learn directly from interaction with the environment. So estimates value based on estimated values of next state like DP, because it updates the policy like DP. So it's bootstrapping, and it doesn't need full model, and it can learn from the environment as well. So it does samples like MC. So when we say TD, it bootstraps and sample. So when I say TD, temporal difference, it does not require a model. It just takes the experience where it's episodes. And we say that it computes with less memory and less peak computations. So we say that without the final outcome, we learn the temporal difference learning. The next we have is Q learning and SARSA. SARSA is state action reward, state action. So we can say Q learning and SARSA are the types of learning algorithm. So when I say Q, it's a one-step learning algorithm, wherein which uses action values, just the action values. So you could see that it take action A, wherein in your SARSA choose A dash and from S dash. So it's like both S dash and A dash is taken, wherein here you just take like the action is being used for the same for a different states, where we can say that Q values are defined for states and actions, but we estimate how good is to take the action at the state S. And here we have rewards. Sorry. So it's a one-step Q learning where you could see that you have reward and a discounted max of state. For example, you choose action from the state S under policy derived from the Q, but you take S dash, wherein here both S dash and A dash is being considered. So the SARSA is just a slight variation. We can say that Q learning technique is a off-policy technique which uses the greedy approach to learn the Q value, and SARSA is an on-policy technique. So when I say on-policy, the learning agent learns the value according to the current action, wherein off-policy according to the action derived from another policy. So Q derives the action from another policy. So we say it's an off policy, wherein SARSA, which uses the action that is performed in the current policy. We could see that choose A from S using policy derived from Q. Repeat, take action A, observe R, S dash, wherein here then you choose A dash from S dash. So according to the current action derived from the policy currently being used, we do an on policy in SARSA, wherein in Q learning we make an off policy technique, that is according to the action derived from another policy. And here we take the max. Here we just take the actions of the particular action and state. The next we have this is all with reinforcement learning. So we have two types, Q learning and SARSA learning outcome, where we have SARSA is just a slight variation of the popular Q1, wherein you use on policy technique where the action is performed by the current policy. In Q, it's like a greedy approach where it's according to the action derived from another policy. So next we have is inductive learning. Inductive learning says learning from example, like what a system tries to induce a general rule from the set of observed. For example, before explaining, let me give an example. Okay, let us take we are going to the zoo and we are able to study that monkeys at the zoo, which is over in Chennai, is eating bananas. Then we are visiting another temple, and over there also we are seeing monkeys, and that monkeys also are eating bananas. So from that, I'm coming to a conclusion that all monkeys eat bananas. So from specific example, I'm making a general rule. So where a system, so I'm making a general rule that all monkeys eat bananas. So it's like from the examples that we learned, we are trying to induce a general rule from the observed instances. So from the evidences that created. And it's a supervised learning where we say that for a supervised learning for a particular input and for a particular this is the particular output. Similarly, here you are learning the element by giving the correct value of the function for the particular input that changes its representation of function to try to match the information provided by the feedback. For example, if it is the representation of the function, for example, x and f of x. So I say x is my monkey eats bananas is my f of x. So I came to a conclusion, the hypothesis that function h approximates based on the collection of samples. So I can say that we are trying to match the information provided by the feedback. So collection of the examples returns to a function h that approximates. So measuring the performance, I collect a large set of examples. So I collected examples, say, so I collect the examples. After collecting the examples, I divide them into two disjoint sets, say test set and training set. Then I train, using the training set as an example, I will generate hypothesis. So we say monkeys eat bananas. So we came to a conclusion like Chennai Zoo monkeys eat bananas. The monkeys at temple eat bananas. So we made a hypothesis that monkeys all eat bananas. So with the percentage of examples of the tests that are classified as hypothesis. So the same, we have to apply these steps with different size. For example, we are learning something, some concept from a book. We may not be understanding from that book. We may use some other book, or we may use some online resource. So we randomly select different sets and different sizes of information, but finally we have to understand. So we'll perform some examples and we divide, like that is how it's like you repeat different sizes of sets that are randomly being selected. So we can say that inductive learning is where we are given examples of a function in a form of x, and the output is the f of x. So your goal is you have to learn the function for the new data, because you did not know, you have generalized that all the monkeys eat bananas. Similarly, suppose with the you know that yesterday morning sun rised. So sun rised yesterday morning, and day before yesterday also you could see sun was rising in the morning. So you came to the conclusion that sun rises in the morning. So from multiple cases, we finally get into a solution. So with different cases, from specific to general. So we are arriving at a general conclusion from a set of facts by the process of generalization. So here we can say classification and regression, which you would have learned for supervised learning. That is when the function is being learned with discrete, or the function is being learned with continuous. We can say that we know that robot. Okay, how a robot performs? Robot performs based on the previously gathered data and history of gathered data. And also when I say that it's a discovery learning, when I can say inductive learning as a discovery, so it has to learn everything around that environment. So learn everything around that robot by inducing facts from the environment. This is called induction. So we have a function x, we have a example x, and we have a target function f of x, and we are getting a learning task of hypothesis h of x. So you have n number of observations, and from that observations you discover and you end with the learning. So we can say inductive learning as an iterative mechanism where you perform hypothesis which fits the data, and that's why it's called as a statistical inference. But still you need some prior knowledge, a little of prior knowledge. So we can say that inductive itself generates a strategy for performing a task, and we need not instruct. So when I say based on a few examples, I could say that sun rises in the morning. So we are learning from examples, and from the evidence we are coming to an decision. We are finding an outcome, and that's the probability of successful training. And the number of examples, that the size, we take different size and randomly we select, and the training examples, how approximate for its accuracy, and how the complexity of hypothesis class, these all are taken into consideration with respect to the inductive learning. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you for your wonderful session. Participants, if you have any queries, you can kindly ask now. Or you can.
Ma'am, I am Professor Sushil. I want to ask, there is any, what is the future scope of artificial intelligence?
Sir, actually, when you say like I am more into actually networks, as you could see my research, but the same machine learning can be applied to any field. Like when you say artificial intelligence, you can apply to networks, and how does that perform to a sensor network? How does that work? Even to the real time COVID-19 also, you can apply the artificial intelligence, and you can predict the outcomes.
Actually, ma'am, I heard that the Sushant who had died earlier, he made a one speech recognition device for COVID-19. It's true, ma'am. That artificial intelligence can help in that speech recognition.
Sir, actually, I did not read about that Sushant's news, but we like this artificial intelligence. It cannot replace a human, but to an extent, it can help in all fields with respect to language processing, with respect to speech recognition, to all levels. To in any field, you take networks or a data analysis. In any field, this artificial intelligence and machine learning, with the proper training the system, everything deals with the data set that we take. So if we train the system with numerous data set, and we can make them effective.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Ma'am, we have a one query. How is KNNS different from K means clustering?
K nearest neighbor and K means clustering.
Yes, ma'am.
Actually, when you were learning your supervised and unsupervised, we say that for the transactive learning, we can say the K nearest neighbor, which is also a supervised learning, wherein K means it's like you are using clustering. So it's like it's again unsupervised, wherein for KNN, it's like you use classification and regression, which is a supervised learning algorithm. So when we say K means, it's like you perform clustering. So when we say clustering, it's like based on similar properties or with the neighbors, you perform an unsupervised learning algorithm, wherein in KNN, you perform a supervised learning algorithm, and KNN can also be said as transactive learning algorithm, because in transactive inference, the KNN performs the KNN does not model the training data, but instead it uses the prediction, which is the transaction that's specific to specific example can have KNN.
Yes, participants, do you have any other queries? Ma'am, we have one more query, ma'am. In which language I can run AI programs other than Lisp?
Like when we say machine learning, we can go for Python.
Madam, what is the use of Python in data science?
Uh, what is the use in the sense like you can query and you can you with the data and with the output and you can with the data set you frame a learning algorithm based on like in Python, like you program everything with the Python and you have certain like in collabs you like I don't know whether you have any hands-on session where they use Colab and Jupyter Notebook and wherein you can program the machine learning and how you can train a particular network, how to perform with respect to its intelligence.
Okay, thanks.
Ma'am, how can we initially decide which learning is best for our model?
Um, it depends on the problem, but basically when we say, for example, it depends on the problem and depends on the data that we have, ma'am. Uh, how to say which model perfectly? You are asking with respect to research purpose, ma'am?
Ma'am, this is a question from Chandraka, a participant, ma'am.
Okay, okay. In which sense you are asking which learning is best for my model? Like, can you please elaborate your question?
Can I ask a question related to that, madam?
Yeah, yeah.
Actually, is there any categorization that certain type of problems, depending upon which category actually, which model should we follow? Actually, there are so many algorithms, so many types of applications are there, depending on different databases, data sets. So how can we identify that? Which one is the optimistic one and the best one? Which algorithm? In certain cases, we can go for a supervised reinforcement also, but how can you decide the best one?
First of all, we have to categorize based on the input, whether it is being labeled or unlabeled, and what is the categorization that's been done with the data. Like you have to understand the data, and based on that understanding of the data, then you will choose the right algorithm for the corresponding problem. Like whether you have to make a decision in terms of the analysis be done with the respect to the statistics or with respect to some sources or how it's been transforming your raw data to predict the model. So based on the problem,
So basically, you mean to say that depending actually practice after practice and a lot of practice only we can just say categorize those things. Means no specific rule is there like that.
uh, specific rule, it's like you will find if the data are labeled, you'll go for supervised, and if it is not labeled, like if you are not able to categorize and if that's a clustering kind of, then you will go for unsupervised. And we can say that based on the raw data, we'll do an analysis purpose. So it like how well we are understanding the data, how well we are processing the data makes plays a much role for choosing the right algorithm.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, any other queries from participants? Otherwise, we will wind up our session.
Ma'am, you can share the attendance of morning sessions.
Sir, we shared the attendance in the morning itself, sir.
Actually, I was busy in morning. I was not able to attend the session.
Okay, sir, no problem. You post your attendance now. Okay, in that session 9.
I am already submitted the
Okay,
attendance.
okay, sir, no problem.
I am Sushil, ma'am.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Thanks.
Hello, madam.
Yes, ma'am.
Hello. Ma'am, kindly share this session attendance, ma'am. Due to power off, I again rejoined, ma'am.
For session 9, ma'am.
This session, yeah, yes, ma'am.
Okay, ma'am. Okay.
Oh,
Okay. Session 9 or attendance.
Can you, madam, can you have some set of possible means good questions, experiment means data related questions so that you can practice it?
Hello.
Sample questions, can you just post some sample questions? Hello.
Sir, you're asking me?
College
Yeah, I am asking about for the
Okay,
questions.
I'll share to the ma'am set of questions so that she will share it to you.
ले लेना मैं.
Ma'am, I'll share it through mail set of questions so that you can share it to the participants, ma'am.
Okay, ma'am. Okay. Ma'am, we have another question.
Okay.
Is it possible to use non-metric measure with KNN?
Ma'am, actually, the previous session was with your supervised and unsupervised, right, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
That time, these all would have been clarified as the.
Okay, ma'am. No problem.
Okay, because KNN doesn't come with this regression. I'm sorry for it, ma'am.
Okay, ma'am. No problem.